Hello, this is an interview podcast by Jared Brannon. So, just some budget details of who I interviewed. So, I actually interviewed Miss Charity Whitner. You can see her on the right. She's the Vice President of Enrollment at the University of Mobile. She has 7 years of budget experience. Before taking the Vice President of Enrollment role at the university 2 years ago, she was the Vice President of Financial Aid and the Director of Admissions. So the first question I asked, what was the recent decisions have you made that made an impact on finances, and how did you assess the impact of your decision? So recently, she said that they've signed two large software contracts that will use a significant portion of her operating budget. Both of these contracts were multiple year contracts, so they were a very important decision that they had to make on this. So the second part of that, how did you assess the impacts of your decision? We assessed what we could accomplish without them, and she actually found that they were a necessity to reach our goals. So that was a great way for them to assess that, was seeing what actually would it be like if we didn't have this software. And then, of course, the return on investment these companies promise, and they'll be tracking that closely throughout the term of the contract. So describe the toughest budget issue that you have ever faced. So the toughest issue that Ms. Whitner has faced when it comes to budgets recently happened when she was feeling good about giving raises to the enrollment staff, but that ultimately wasn't able to give due to budget limitations. She definitely said that was probably one of the hardest decisions that she actually had to make. So describe how you decrease expenses and or increase revenue. So they're always giving attention to a balanced budget at the university. So keeping an eye on contracts and negotiating to the lowest cost is one way to decrease expected expenses. And probably like all universities, marketing also came to her mind as a way to increase revenue with decreasing expenses. So they always try to maximize the free or nearly free means of marketing via electronic email or digital campaigns. So explain the political pressure you face in terms of financial management and budget issues. So Ms. Whitner actually stated, political pressure comes when there is a team of people around a table that all want more budget. There's a cost associated with success, that you know the line that you have to spend money to make money. So how is it fair for some parts of the organization to have a much larger budget if everyone around the table essentially has a skin in the game? So no one likes to feel less important, but dollars assigned to your portion of the organization budget seems to indicate importance. So she definitely says that there is a political pressure when it comes to the management and budgeting issues. So what advice would you give to new or a mid-level professional about learning how to make budgetary decisions and being successful at it? So she definitely gave some really good advice. So one key advisement she could give me was to learn how to save or cut costs. This is something that you'll surely do at some point. She also said that think outside the box. Sometimes it is good to find something to cut in order to bring new ideas that saves time and money. And then also be a good negotiator with businesses wanting your business, because they'll promise all these efficiencies that you may see as a value, but in actuality they're not a necessity. So how do you determine what areas that need to have budget cuts? Well, Ms. Whitner, what she said was she's already operating with such a tight budget, so it really comes down to, at the time, what is necessary and what is not necessary at that moment in time. So what have you done to improve your knowledge in regards to budgeting? So she definitely hounded in on this because with her, she had a psychology bachelor's degree, and then she had a master's in psychology. So she didn't have a lot of budgetary experience coming into the job. So she definitely said seminars. She has done so many seminars to really hound in on budgets and how to do these budgets. She spent a lot of time with their CFO, the Chief Financial Officer, and the President. And then she definitely said reading articles that deal with the current issues in our industry. There are so many articles out there, so she definitely said that she does this on almost a weekly basis. and then also networking to see what other institutions of like size do, just to really figure out how other institutions like the University of Mobile, a small private Christian school, handle their budgets. So what was the most challenging part of budgeting and why? Probably like most universities, the most challenging part always seems to be that we need to do more with less money, and that can definitely be a difficult thing. So how do you ensure that budget estimates are complete and accurate to conform to procedures? Ms. Whitner fortunately said that she does not have to sign off on budgets. There are only certain people with budget signing privileges. So all contracts are reviewed and approved by the CFO and or the president. So I asked, is there any teamwork involved when you complete your budgets? So there's definitely a lot of teamwork that goes into completing a budget. There's trust given to managers in reviewing the budget and staying in the budget. And there's also teamwork in the administration team as they review yearly budgets and make changes as a team. So in conclusion, the three main lessons that I've learned. So the first one, budget management is a process of continuous learning. Every year you have a new budget and different goals. You're always needing to find new ways to improve every year. Secondly, ask questions. If you're uncertain about something, ask it. You can save a great deal of time and energy if you seek clarification early in the process rather than later. So do not let your ego get in the way of getting helpful information regarding issues and problems. And lastly, make as few assumptions as possible. One needs to invest time in testing all assumptions and proposals and in the current budget. Like Ms. Whitner stated, she was under the assumption that she would be able to give raises, but unfortunately, budget constraints affected this assumption. So sometimes the current budget is accepted as a given by a budget manager, and that may not be the actual case. So here's my appendix of the 11 questions that I asked Ms. Whitner. So thank you for joining in. I hope you guys learned something.